minutes. Please unmute your microphone now. Make your request known. Chair recognizes Aaron Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Aaron Gross, Hastings. I would like to call attention to the write-up by Rebecca Pierce in the letter to the editor. She published my letter to the editor, and it was mentioned by Chair Geiger, and I've asked for it to be read twice, but at least it was nice to know that the local media was listening. I yield back.
Hello?
Does that conclude your remarks, Mr. Gross?
Yes.
All right. Chair recognizes Charles Hertzler.
Hi, thank you for recognizing me. I just want to make mention that this morning on Detroit News Station, they had reported that Prosecutor Tim Worthy from the Wayne County prosecuting attorneys are dismissing all charges filed against anybody over any COVID-19 related issues. And she says she's doing that because it was an unlawful delegation of power and the Michigan Constitution against the Michigan Constitution stuff. So I just thought I'd bring it to your attention and say, do you think it's possible that we could have our prosecuting attorney kind of do the same thing? I don't know what influence you guys actually have with the prosecuting attorney, but maybe someone hearing this at the media stuff could say something to her or send, because I think we should do the same thing in support of our local businesses or any individual that has got a ticket or any kind of a fine or anything for not wearing a mask or whatever. All that's supposed to be, if Wayne County can do it, why can't we? That's my point. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Is there further public comment today? If so, please unmute your microphone and make your request known. Seeing none, we'll move ahead.
Mr.
Interviews
Chairman?
for, yes.
Did we say the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm sorry, I was a few seconds late.
We did.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed it.
Interviews for the Conservation Easement Board. Morning, we have 4 applicants for the Conservation Easement Board. Joan Bossard Schroeder, Megan Chavez, Sarah Swindera, and Heather Wing. So we're going to do this. Have all 4 of you unmute your microphones now, and then the commissioners will ask one question to all of you. So first of all, we'll give each applicant an opportunity to have the floor, make an opening statement, and say why you'd like to serve on this board. So we'll start with Joan. Joan, welcome to the Board of Commissioners. Do we have Joan with us? All right, do we have Morgan with us? How about Sarah? Good morning, Sarah.
Hey there. So I'm Sarah Seitz-Werda. I work for Pierce Cedar and I'm their education director. I have experience. My background is in crops and soil science, in ecology and evolutionary biology and behavior. And I worked over at MSU for a long time as a scientist there, and then I've worked over at Pierce Cedar Creek Institute as a educator for the last 7 years. And so I've lived in Barry County for, it's been 17 years now, I think. Previously closer to Delton and Lux Arbor, and now I live in between Middleville and Hastings. And I'm interested in this particular position mostly just because where I grew up in Indiana, we had a lot of farmland that's been converted into subdivisions and into development without a lot of forethought to it. And I really want to see the sort of rural character of Barry County being preserved. So, yep.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. We also have Heather Wing. Heather Wing, welcome to the County Board of Commissioners. No stranger. Please tell us why you'd like to serve.
So the last 4 years, I served on the Conservation Easement Board through as the commissioner representative. It's the Conservation Easement Board is one of the things that I'm most passionate about serving with. As a farmer, it's detrimental that we preserve our agricultural properties. We are charged with feeding the world, and feeding everybody at home starts at home. And if we don't preserve our properties here, we won't have the land base to feed the rest of the world.
Great. Thank you. Questions from commissioners. We'll start with Commissioner Campbell.
Well, I get lucky. I guess probably foremost on my mind, it seems I'm new at this, is I would ask both of them, what can you do to me to help me better understand the easement committee? Where may you be of assistance to myself?
Anybody want to answer that question?
I'll answer, and I'll point out that Joan Schroeder's on the call now too. So having been involved with the Conservation Easement Board, this project started in the late 90s. My husband and other agricultural leaders in the community, Dennis Pennington from Extension, trying to remember his name now. He was integral in the Farm Bureau, and he was from the Delton area. Set up.
Tom.
Thanks, Joan. Yeah, Tom.
Guthrie. Tom Guthrie.
Tom Guthrie. Thank you, Joan. Tom Guthrie set up a fund at the Community Foundation for preserving agriculture grounds, and it started out in the East. Tom and Dennis Pennington went on a tour to see all the properties out east that they were preserving, because as the urban areas grow, they just squish out farmland. Part of Berry County's master plan is to preserve tracts, or to designate tracts of agricultural properties, and it's the goal to make sure that those always stay agricultural. Because if it's nice flat ground, it makes for really good building sites too. And so if it's productive ag soil, it should stay there. And we have a lot of building sites around lakes and other areas in the county. And it's nice now, over the last 4 years, we have enacted open space ordinance as well. So if somebody has pristine, gorgeous property that a creek runs through it and they always want to keep it that way, they can preserve that as an open space too. It's not just ag preservation, it's open space preservation too. Part of the message that we as Berry County commissioners got a few years ago, they did a survey and people said they like the way Berry County is and they don't want Berry County to change. They want the recreational opportunities, they want the pristine agricultural sites to be left alone. They love Berry County the way it is, and the whole purpose of the Conservation Easement Board is to make sure that people who have sites that they want preserved have the opportunity to do that. There are funding sources through private donors, the state and the federal, to help preserve properties. And without this Conservation Easement Board, we can't preserve property in Berry County. We wouldn't have a local tool to do that with. And so this lines with the state and the federal opportunities for conservation easement. And it's, you know, I listened to my father-in-law talk about this and my husband talk about this when we first got married. And I felt very blessed to have been appointed to this committee, because it is something that I feel really strongly about. So.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Bruce. Before we move ahead, Joan has joined us today. Joan, do you want to give an opening statement and share with the committee why you'd like to serve on the board again?
Well, I'd like to continue serving on the board. I've been on the board for a number of years now, and it all began because I grew up on a big farm that is still in production. My brother owns the operation, the corporation now, and we actually have the fourth generation coming in to continue this farm. And I've watched, and I had another brother who was in the financial sector and banking and agriculture banking. And all of us were watching farmland around us being gobbled up and houses being built in it. And we just know what an important part of Michigan business this is, that and an important part of the wheel, of the cog of the wheel, with, of course, feeding people. But in Michigan, with the whole business community, that agriculture is a huge part of that, and that this land is so important. And it's also important in terms of other issues, just about open space for people. And so I'm so pleased that we've got the agricultural and the open space preserved in Berry County, that we have the opportunity to preserve if people want to. And I just look forward into continuing to be part of this group and help people that want to preserve their properties, and also educate people on why this is important, why we feel it's important, and the different townships as to what opportunities we have available in Berry County, and just see where people go with this project. But I'm excited, and I've met some really nice people in the county that I didn't know before, that I've been able to to get to know, and am just really pleased to collaborate with.
Thank you, Joan. We'll move ahead to questions from other commissioners. Commissioner Gibson.
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Getty.
Yep, I'm here. I had to unmute myself. I come from District 2, which is the northwest corner of Berry County. We're really the fastest growing area. There's a lot of pressure on farmland, and we have seen that the same responses to surveys that Heather spoke to, that the reason that people are attracted here is because of the rural nature and the agricultural roots in our small town. But we're seeing more and more pressures that could, take that away. We're also seeing, a lot of pressure for housing, and increase in housing needs in the county, and particularly here in the Middleville area. What solutions would you have to helping preserve this fast growing, really high value property in the northwest Berry County?
Well, I totally understand the growth. I mean, I'm watching all the counties around us come in on Berry County, and the growth that's occurring, like Kalamazoo County coming up on the southern end of the county, is just amazing. The amount of growth that's just pushed right up in the farmland there, right up to the edge of some of the larger farms that are right on that border, Berry and Kalamazoo County. And I also understand the need for housing. We were looking for a house to help our son, our youngest child, get into in the Hastings area, and the available places to purchase or to rent it's a real problem. I mean, we have a lot of people who need housing and want housing, and we need to do that. So I think there's two things. I think the number one thing is we need to have a very well thought out land plan for the county. We need to have areas of green areas for, recreation. We need to have areas for farming. We need to have areas for growth, planned growth around the cities. And I think if the county really, takes this cause to heart and really evaluates the different, kinds of land use there are and the different needs in the different areas, that I know there's already a plan in place, but that can become even more important to being able to preserve the kind of county that people are moving here for, because eventually what they're moving for here is going to disappear. They're moving here because they like this, small town feel. They like this, they like that. But, if we get enough people who move in, and I'm not saying you cap it, I'm saying it caps itself, because why people are moving here becomes negated because we are building up on the land. And the other part of that is there's the financial part, of course, with, the cost of the easement preservation, but that will all work itself out in time too. I really feel like, even though Berry County's been at this for a while, there was a lull from when they originally started that Heather was speaking to, and then there was kind of a lull in the development of this process, and now it's just starting to get traction again. So I think, as in all things, if people are willing to meet and learn and listen to each other, those issues can be worked out, working together to make the county better, to make the county the best it can be for the people of the county and what the people of the county want.
Thank you, Joan. Sarah, do you want to answer that question about development pressures?
Yeah, I think there's several ways that you can really be able to meet needs of people who need housing, and then also be able to, one of the big ones I think that's important is encouraging development that's both planned and smart, but also more densely populated. And so, for example, there's a development that's going in not too far from me, where each of those houses has lots that are like 6 or 7 acres. And that's not the kind of development you want if you want to have farmland being conserved. You want people to have smaller yards. Maybe it's condominiums, maybe it's apartments, but there's a place for houses to go in also. But I feel like trying to encourage some of those developments that are moderately dense, so that we aren't eating up all of the farmland with giant pieces of lawn and turf grass. One of the other things that I think is really important is, we have the opportunity with easements to be able to conserve pieces of land that are important. And that could be through the Conservation Easement Board. It could also be partnering with people like the Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy, which most of their holdings that they have are in often at my job at Pierce, because they have the easement on our property. I think there are ways that we could do more with our resources that we have.
Thank you, Sarah. Heather, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, sir. The Berry County Master Plan, the Planning and Zoning Master Plan, is up for its 5-year or 10-year review. And that is one of the most important pieces or documents that we have as Berry County residents to help preserve the areas that need to be preserved. Without the designated agricultural tracts, without the designated growth areas that we look at around our villages and our city, we really do need to work very closely with planning and zoning to make sure that we're identifying the best tracts to preserve as either open space or agriculture. Yes, the Southwest Conservancy has hundreds of acres conserved in Berry County. Sorry about that background noise. We are seeking to preserve tracts that butt up to what the Southwest Conservancy has preserved. We are seeking tracts of ag land to be contiguous to other tracts that have been preserved. We are looking to make sections or larger tracts of areas where we know that it's going to be farmland forever, or we know that because this creek runs, through 2 or 3 townships, that all along there it's all preserved to make it beautiful for generations to come. I think that as Middleville experiences growing pains and Hastings experiences growing pains, preserving a 40-acre field right on the edge of Hastings city limit is probably not the best idea because Hastings needs to grow. At the same time, preserving something in woodland as agriculture makes the greatest sense because that is some of the best agricultural lands that we have in Berry County.
It's complete. Oh, it's just a bed.
I think that the tools that we have, both locally, nationally, and statewide, we are poised to be able to.
Now I've got a blank screen. Oh, now she's back.
We're poised to be able to do a lot with the conservation easements that we are looking for in the future. Since we preserved the Carpenter Farm a year ago, and we are working on preserving another farm. We're waiting for the state announcement to come through. We have had several other people approach board members requesting to donate their conservation easements
so,
on
are
their
they going to
properties.
dial into me and they'll be able to hear me? And then they'll unmute me. They'll unmute me.
I'm hearing somebody else talk over me.
I can see.
David
Charlotte,
or Aaron, can you mute Charlotte?
Can you mute Charlotte?
That's because we have.
Okay.
You didn't.
I cannot mute and unmute. How are we doing? Heather, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I apologize for that. Can you
That's all right.
please continue?
No, I'm excited about the opportunities to preserve parcels in Berry County and to meet all of those people who would like an open space easement versus an ag easement. There are lots and lots of options and tools that we can use to make sure that Berry County stays the Berry County that we all know and love.
Thank you. We had Commissioner Jackson.
Good morning. The Conservation Easement Board is relatively new. We went from the Ag Preservation Board to the Conservation Easement Board and Open Space Preservation. And it seems like at one piece a year, it's going to be a very slow process. Is there anything we can do to expedite that or to actually reach out and get more conservation easements in place, more farmland preservation?
I mean, I think there are probably several options that we have that we could move that further along. Partially, I think there's opportunities to partner with, like Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy just released their strategic plan last summer that includes a pretty big development plan to try and conserve strategically different properties in Berry County. So I think that's one group that would be, I would guess it would be much easier to use some of their resources and some of the grant they land. One of the other ways that I think we would need to be able to reach more people is looking strategically at parcels that we're interested in and having educational opportunities to encourage people to look at those opportunities. I think there are probably a lot of folks who would be interested in conserving their land if they knew more about it and understand what an easement is and what it isn't, and what it means as far as property values and what it means for development on their property. And so I think that's a big piece of it, is just letting people know that that's an opportunity they have, but also educating them about what does it mean to have an easement on your property and how do you do that?
Mm-hmm. Sarah, I noticed that you have you had listed several grant applications or several grants that you've put in. Are you comfortable writing grants?
Yeah.
As far as there an opportunity to get
So I write
grants or look into grants for this?
I think that's something we can do. In particular, I think it depends on what the purpose of the property is. And also, like, I think in particular for a lot of the grants that go for conservation easements, if they're related to water quality, there's some that are related to watershed protection. There are a lot that will pay for these sorts of easements that you can get. I think if we were partnering with organizations like Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy or, like different groups, most of those applications, you have to have multiple partners on them to make them more lucrative to the funding folks. But yes, that is something we could definitely look into. I'm normally writing probably 5 or 6 grant applications a year that are, some of which are pretty large. I also think private donors are an important resource in our community as well that we could work with.
Thank you. Joan.
Yes, I was just going to say, all of the things that Sarah just mentioned are part of what the process that we're in right now. We've been starting the grant writing process and looking for private, resources in the community. And, we've looked at Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy. In fact, we have a person on the board who's worked with them a great deal and understands it. And we have a wonderful person that's working with and I'm not saying that Sarah wouldn't be an asset, obviously, with all that grant writing experience, but it's just that, I just think that the whole thing it looks slow right now. And it seems slow right now, but it's moving quickly. I have people talking to me. I just had a person talk to me about it yesterday, about, easement preservation. And so it's becoming, I just think it's, in part, and also part of what we have started is we started a committee to get out and talk to each of the townships. We would like to, it's on our agenda to get on the township's agenda and get out to the townships and speak to the township supervisors and, the zoning and everyone about what we're doing and, who we are and what opportunities are available and just, really start to hit it with some grassroots education for the county, which I think is really going to be important. And I totally agree about the doing more high density, housing, because one of the factors that pushed me was I looked at the road that I live on and how many houses have been added on that road since I moved out there, and how many acres each house has, the new houses. And I'm just thinking of how much of that field was just lost. It's not going to be farmed anymore, or isn't going to be open space, or whichever it falls into. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
I agree that there needs to be some private funding that is involved in this. Currently, our landowners, through the ag easement, they donate part of their equity to preserve their properties. The Carpenter Farm has donated 70% of the equity of their farm to preserving their property. If you work through the Southwest Conservancy, there's typically a very large monetary donation that goes along with their conservation easement to fund the monitoring of that property in perpetuity. So typically there's a dollar amount that goes with however many acres gets donated, and then that pays for the annual reporting to make sure that nobody built a house on it, or nobody let brush grow up where it wasn't supposed to. That's a payment that landowner has to make. And typically with like the ag conservation, most farmers don't have a whole lot of cash to make that type of donation. People who own properties like Pierce Cedar Creek that can afford to make that type of donation, or want to work with Southwest Conservancy, they typically have a little bit different funding source than what the ag side of it does. There are organizations out there, Kent County and Ottawa County have very big, like, trust fund donors that pay for the conservation. Ingham County has a millage that pays for their conservation easement process. Ingham County taxpayers voted to have this millage so that they could preserve the ag properties around Lansing that, as Lansing grew, pushed agriculture out, including the properties from the Land Grant Institute, Michigan State University. So a lot of the farmland around Michigan State has had settlement built up around it, and it's made it very difficult to continue to do that research at school.
Thank you. Move on to questions from Commissioner Smelker.
My questions have been answered. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, John. Commissioner Connor.
Thank you. So my question first is directed back to Heather. So you were just talking about these costs for the Land Conservancy and reports and inspections. And right now, who pays for those, for the lands that we have conserved?
Right now, the one farm that was conserved in 2007, it's been a volunteer on the Conservation Easement Board that has done the annual reporting. He goes out annually, drives past the property, does an inspection, files the report, and sends it on to Lansing.
And
I don't think that it's...
Go ahead.
Well, the Carpenter Farm's not completely preserved yet, so they have not had any annual reporting on it.
And what does
But as this gets...
Go ahead.
Sorry, Vivian.
Go ahead. You're thinking...
So as this process gets bigger, we need to make sure that we have someone in county employ to do the inspections. And I think that as we have the zoning officer inspect other properties, I think that this could be something that would work into the zoning officer's job description. If they're looking at a property right next door for a zoning complaint, then the inspection of the property from the conservation easements takes about 15 or 20 minutes. So the whole time that he's driving through the neighborhood, it's something that could be incorporated into his annual visits or routine visits to other parts of our communities. If we conserve, half of the area of Berry County, it would definitely be more than just a full-time position. I think it would probably take 2 or 3 people if we had, 8 of our 16 townships completely conserved. But that's a long way down the road.
Where does that money come from? What fund?
So the county has been given the development rights for a farm, the DeGroot farm up around Woodland, and the Carpenters have given 70% of their equity in their farm to the county, and maybe it's the money comes through the Conservation Easement Board, or maybe it comes through planning and zoning. We have a zoning enforcement officer. His paycheck comes from the general fund, and that would not be out of his scope of responsibility to do.
Thank you. Do either of the other ladies, Sarah or Joan, want to comment on that question?
The question about where the money comes from?
Who should be paying for those inspections and reports?
Well, oh, I think that if somebody is donating for the inspections and the reports for the 1 year, you know, one time a year, I think that if right now, because we are just getting going, it's a volunteer from our committee that is doing it. But as we preserve more and more properties, and people are giving so much back in terms of their development, you know, rights and costs, I think that it's a combination of you pay for it. You know, some of it could be paid for that our committee is responsible for out of maybe funds that we get from a grant we've written, and some of it is would be county responsibility if the easements are, you know, if once the whole process is finished. But I agree with Heather, it's not going to be a huge time issue. It would be down the road, I mean, several years before that became a really something that you would really be looking at with a county employee, you know, the money coming from the general fund.
Thank you. Sarah?
I will say that the inspections that I'm familiar with that happen from Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy, they have volunteers who are trained to do that and that help them with writing up reports and stuff. I know that's what happens on the property where I work, and on some of the other properties that are around southern Berry County. I'm not sure about all of the easements that they have, but that is something that I think if you had a trained volunteer who was interested in that, the workload is not ridiculously huge, and I think it's within the scope of something that could be done and written up by someone who had enough training to be able to help with it.
Thank you, Sarah. Another question, and let's go the other way with Sarah answering first, because I wrote this down from one of her comments regarding the 6 or 7 acres that people want to buy for their family, have a goat, have a horse, maybe a few chickens, 3 kids, and a little pond, whatever. So why would that be an unrealistic desire for a family to have a piece of property like that? And who should say that they shouldn't? We have a lot of people that are wanting to move into the country, and a lot of country people that grew up here that want that for themselves. And where does whose voice should be heard about these easements of not breaking, of especially around the cities, Middleville, Hastings, where they have no more room for growth inside the city?
I think it's a balance. Like, I think I think the first thing that should be done really is offering those opportunities within the city. And, you know, particularly within Middleville, they are doing that, where they are building apartments, condominiums, that kind of stuff. I think you should still have the opportunities outside the city, but I think making sure that you have the opportunities in town first, and making sure that that's a priority, making sure that there is housing that's available that is reasonably affordable, makes sense first. I don't think that there's anything wrong with continuing to have some of those developments out in rural areas, but I don't feel like the developments that I've been seeing aren't the sort where they're looking to have horses and chickens. It's mostly they're having big yards, doing those sorts of like subdivision kind of developments where you are eating up really large tracts of farmland. I don't think they're necessarily going to go away, and we aren't going to stop all of them, but I think there needs to be a balance where they don't take over the whole countryside. And I think zoning can help with some of that, but I think it's finding that balance within the county so that you aren't changing the rural character.
Thank you. Joan?
I would agree with that. I think this review of the zoning and the land use plan for the county is going to be really important. That's coming up for the 5-year review, because I think that we need to, that I've always said we need to make sure that all the houses, all the units in the city that can be available for people are being used, that we have multi-use available, apartments to single-family homes available, and then it would make sense that the growth would happen then around the cities more. And I don't want to deny anybody that opportunity, but I also think that if people want to preserve their farms or want to preserve the open space, that they should have that opportunity to do that and know about the opportunities that are available to them for that easement conservation. And I think the county also has to really look at this in terms of the open space and making sure that we preserve like as the streams and the ponds and how all the watershed runs together and the water quality, really look at how all of that is affected by development, and just really do an in-depth land development plan that serves people's needs, a variety of needs, and try to track housing around already developed areas, and tries to be able to keep the flavor of the open space and preserve the farmland, because we all know once that 40 acres is turned into a housing development, that's never going to go back into being a productive farmland again. And that is such a I've never seen it. I'm sure there is someplace a housing development that was turned back into farmland, but I've never seen it. And that is that 40 acres is then gone forever in terms of ag production and of the money that comes into the county every year from that and so on. And I know that houses, that people who own houses pay taxes, but there's also the county then is having to provide a lot of services with keeping the roads clear and maintained and so on and so forth. So I just think it needs to be a really the county land survey and the zoning, and just developing a very well thought out plan, so that we're looking at the county not only today but 10 years from now. What's going to happen to this watershed area if that's developed, and so forth, those kind of issues.
Thank you, Joan. Heather, you're last. There we go. You changed location on my screen.
So being a farmer, if you look back in history, farms were traditionally passed down from generation to generation. And I can probably say that my children will be the 6th generation, or are the 6th generation, to live in my house. The property that my farm sits on has been in the family since 1853. We've added a few acres here or there. Nothing new since the late 60s, because property's getting expensive. But that heritage sometimes skips generations. Sometimes that love of the land doesn't come back with your kids when they go off to college. If our ag sector doesn't preserve some of these special pieces, there won't be those little hobby farms that people are looking for to buy in the country. They will create a 40-acre housing development where people have, 3-4 acre yards. There's not space. Nobody wants horses next to them. Nobody wants pigs next to them. You won't have that country feel to the landscape in our community. There are a lot of vacant old houses in my neighborhood that are falling down because nobody wants to live in them right now. They come complete with that 5 or 6 acre pasture. Nobody wants to buy them, or nobody wants to sell them, because I have one across the road from me. It was my grandma's house. I don't know what I want to do with it. I can't sell it. I'm just waiting until I know what I want to do. And so it would make one of those great little hobby farms, or, a couple horses, chickens, whatever. It's just people aren't ready to get rid of those things right now. They want to make sure that if they do sell their memories of their family, that it goes to someone who's going to cherish the land for what it is. My husband's family passed down their heritage. They passed that Midwest work ethic, the love for the land, the love for animals, to every generation. Where I grew up, my family's pretty young. We've only been there since 1902, but there's not a family farm anymore. Well, there is. My nephew has it. But it's not what it used to be. Where my great grandparents lived got sold in the 70s. Yeah, got sold in the 70s to a farmer next door because there was a disagreement in the family. And that's how you lose family farms. Or they're built, you sell off the frontage along the road and now you can't get back to the field, so you just sell that off too. It's difficult as Hastings is experiencing, growing pains. There's nothing left to build on in the city. Middleville has the same problem. I think the housing project that the Community Foundation is working on will help alleviate some of that trouble. And there may be other tracts in the city that are poised to take a multi-dwelling unit. But in order to keep our ag land, sometimes drastic measures. Our farm would have been preserved probably 15 or 20 years ago if we hadn't been, I say we because my father-in-law has been on the board since the beginning, just about. If he hadn't been on the board, the original ordinance prohibited board members from preserving their property. And so all these years, they have waited for an opportunity to preserve the farmland that we've owned, only to be, we score really high in the application cycle and you can't do it because you're on the board. So that's the frustrating part, is we can't always get everything we want preserved when we want, but eventually it'll come full circle.
Thank you. I have no more questions. Thank you to all of the applicants for their answers and for applying and wanting to serve their county.
Thank you, Commissioner. If there's no other questions from commissioners, we'll take a short break and then come back for Commission on Aging interviews. So without objection, we will recess until for 5 minutes.
Commissioner Geiger, I need to go back to class. If you need me for anything, please text me and I'll rejoin.
All right, thank you. Committee will come to order. At this time, we will conduct interviews for the Commission on Aging Board. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 applicants. We will start by having individuals applying for the board give an opening statement and share why they'd like to serve. So we will start with Sager Miller. Sager, please unmute your microphone, introduce yourself, and share why you'd like to serve on the Commission on Aging Board. Sager's getting set up. Janet Fitzgerald. Oh, Sager's here.
Hello. I've been on the board for 2 terms, and I would like to carry on for another term anyway. I think I can do them some good. I have a few ideas, but I would really like another term.
Thank you, Sager. Janice Fitzgerald, please introduce yourself and share why you'd like to serve on the Commission on Aging Board. Okay, we don't have Janice Fitzgerald. Dave Tassova.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a lifelong resident of Hastings in Berry County. I got on the Commission on Aging Board to give back to the community, the elderly in Berry County. I enjoy being on the Commission on Aging Board and associating with some of our elderly people. I think we have a lot of unfinished business at the Commission on Aging, and I'd really like your support and your reappointment. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Do we have Gail Maloney on the phone?
Yes, I am here.
Hi, Gail.
Hi, I moved into Hope Township in Berry County 12 years ago and started out getting to know the COA by doing Meals on Wheels, and then I got talked into doing the gnome project, and my mom and I wound up redoing the gnomes, and that I've served on the walkathon committee and worked with the spaghetti dinner. I've also gone to Lansing with the Old Michiganders Day to support our local COA statewide. I really think that our COA is an important part of our seniors, and what a great support system. And I would really like to be able to help more with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Jennifer DeWitt, do we have you on the phone?
Yes. Can you all hear me, I hope?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I want to thank you for considering my application. And one of the reasons that I would like to be on the board is to help with the ongoing and ever-changing needs of our seniors in the community. I am a retired legal assistant, having worked in that field for almost 30 years. I also volunteer for several other places in the community. One of them is the Berry County Victim Services Unit for the Sheriff's Department. I've been on that since 2002, served on some of the board positions there. I'm also on the Thorn Apple Arts Council board. I am an artist that I still go out and do art shows. And I feel that I could probably contribute quite a bit to the commission. And I'm very interested, as my husband and I both are retired, and there's a need for getting some new blood on the commission. And again, as I said, helping serve all the ongoing needs and any upcoming needs of our seniors, because we're such a large part of the community.
Thank you, Jennifer. Charlotte, are you with us? Only know you were here earlier. Oh, we'll move ahead with questions from commissioners. We'll start with Commissioner Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, applicants, for wanting to serve your community. I appreciate the dedication and your desire. I guess the first thing I will ask is, when making a decision on the board, name 3 things that you would consider. I guess we'll start with the gentleman, Junior Sager, if you'll go first, and in the same order that you just spoke. You're muted. Junior, you're muted.
Am I there now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Would you come back with that question, Vivian?
When making a decision on the board, name 3 things that you would consider.
I would consider what we would be the best for everyone, and consider the cost and just to get it done.
Thank you. Mr. Tassava, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm still here. I'd hate to admit this, but I think Junior stole my answer. You know, what I always look at when I'm making any kind of decision is, you know, I'd like to, you know, kind of poll the public, you know, and see what the public their interests are, see what's best for the public, what's beneficial for our people that use the Commission on Aging. And we always have to consider our employees and the facilities that we house people in, that we provide whatever means, you know, we do a lot for the elderly public at the Commission on Aging. And I think our facility is a big consideration in any decision we make.
Hey, thank you. Gail?
Yes, I agree with both of the gentlemen before me. I think budget is very, very important. Trying to get the most good for the money that you're spending, and what are the needs of our community? What can we do to help them? I have to say the Meals on Wheels program is like incredible. And, you know, I just think that is such a good support to a lot of our seniors, and also the facility, you know, we need to have a facility to serve them too. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I agree with what everyone has said so far. In addition to that, in implementing the programs, to check to see what type of resources we have available to help us. And as with what Dave said, the resources and how it would impact the community also. And what's best for our seniors.
Didn't mean to interrupt you. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. And did we get Charlotte back?
Don't see her.
I don't see her either. Thank you, everyone. I will let other commissioners ask other questions.
All right, Commissioner Smelker.
Unmute, Jen.
On the board, the ones that have been on there, is there an unfunded liability in your budget?
No.
Dave?
I would have to look at it. I'm not sure. I know we do have a surplus. I'd have to talk to Tammy about that.
Okay. The other applicants, do you have a statement on that?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
John, you kind of caught me off guard. I'm thinking, what's he talking about? Unfunded liability. We do have retirements. We have retirement. And we have health care. In fact, we just approved the Commission on Aging portion to the county at our last meeting. So yeah, we do have an unfunded liability.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson.
Good morning. For those of you who are serving on the board and prospective, members, what is something that you perceive as a need going forward for the Commission on Aging? If you can focus on one thing. Let's start with Mr. Toseva, since you are first on my screen.
Well, I still think we have an immediate need for our facility to be improved. There's so many things we could do if we did have a better facility. We've always talked about being able to cook and serve our food from our facility here in Hastings, and so I think the facility is the big thing right now.
Okay, Gail.
I agree with him. I think the facility is really important. Just, to be able to have the daycare for elderly, for people who work, and take care of their elderly parents, which was my situation a few years ago. And I just think it would serve our whole senior group if we could do that. And I don't know, maybe the next time we go for a bond issue, we could really try to educate our county exactly what services the COA provides to everyone.
Jenny.
I would say that I would agree with both what Dave and Gail said. We do need a top-notch facility in order to best serve those needs.
Thank you. Sager.
Yes, I agree with the previous people, but I also think that we ought to be able to get some of our senior citizens so they could get something going where this here being a home and things like this has kind of brought out some things as far as we need some to get some of the people together and maybe have a little visitation fest so get some of them activated a little bit to get them away from the chair. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thanks, Dave. Commissioner Getty.
Dave really asked my question. I appreciate everyone's willingness to serve or continue to serve on the board. But I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Gibson.
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody for applying. I think we have some good candidates. When I've been in the building, I've noticed some of these people up there volunteering, and we appreciate their volunteering. I have no questions.
Commissioner Campbell.
I have no questions, but I would like to make the comment that I feel that the Commission on Aging group is probably one of the most important groups in the county as far as my personal opinion, and that my mother, who's 92 years old, lives out in Delton, absolutely loves getting her Meals on Wheels. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you to all of your today's applicants. We're now going to proceed to discussion. You are dismissed if you'd like to jump off the call, but This is a public meeting. You're welcome to stick around for the rest of it. Discussion and recommendations for appointments. What are the board's wishes?
Which, are you talking about the COA board?
Start with the Conservation Easement Board.
Oh, okay. I kind of like Sarah as one of the picks.
Yeah.
Ben, I guess if you're looking for ideas, I like Sarah and Heather.
Mr. Chairman, my thoughts would be Heather and Joan. I mean, they've spent a lot of time working. They want to continue to work. There's something to be said for that. I mean, we should respect people that have given and want to continue to give. And I think both of those individuals are good qualified applicants. Heather and Joan, yes.
So at this time, we're going to take a vote on who we want to serve on the Conservation Easement Board. It seems to be the consensus is Heather Wing would be the first choice, but there's some disagreement between Joan and Sarah. So, Madam Clerk, the clerk is going to call the roll. When your name is called, say either Joan or Sarah.
Campbell.
Joan.
Connor.
Joan.
Getty.
Joan.
Gibson.
Sarah.
Jackson.
Sarah.
Smelker.
You're muted. You're muted.
Sarah.
Steiger.
Joan. Joan is the consensus by a 4-3 vote. So, at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners the appointment of Heather Wing to the Berry County Conservation Easement Board, representing ag interest, and the reappointment of Joan Bossert Schrader to the Berry County Conservation Easement Board position, representing conservation interest, terms that began on January 1st, 2021 and ends on December 31st, 2023. All those in favor say aye.
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 Actually, I need the motion made first.
Mr. Chair, who made the motion?
That's what I'm saying right now. Who wants to make the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Connor, supported by
Gibson.
Getty will support.
Supported by Gibson. Is there any discussion? We're all familiar with the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll head to the Commission on Aging Board. What are the board's wishes?
Do we know what happened to Charlotte?
Don't. I'm gonna check with the have Luella contact Charlotte and see if we can get her back on the phone.
And we have
Mr.
four.
Chair.
I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
On my agenda page, I don't have a Charlotte on there. Or yeah, Charlotte Moeller, is that who we're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There are 4 seats, is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
There is
Yeah.
4.
Here's
Thank you.
4.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could we take a short break while Luella tries to reach Charlotte?
Yeah, we can do that. Without objection, the board will stand in recess for 5 minutes.
Thank you.
We have made contact with Charlotte, and we're trying to get her connected now. So Charlotte needs 5 minutes before she can reconnect. So at this time, what would the commissioners like to do? Would we like to wait? Would we like to take something else up?
Let's go with the MERS appointment or the MERS amended hybrid adoption agreement.
Yeah. Luella, are you able to present that?
Yes, I'll try that. So this is a request.
Just a second, Luella. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached MERS hybrid plan adoption agreement amendment to enroll new hires to Division 15 Central Dispatch to the MERS hybrid plan division effective January 2021.
So move, Smelker.
Fort Jackson.
Okay. Thanks, Luella. You can proceed.
Sure. So this is a request that deals with Division 15, which is the supervisor's division at Central Dispatch. And there are actually going to be two parts to what they're trying to accomplish with this division. This would be the first part. This would say that any new hires after January 1 of 2021 would be enrolled in the hybrid division. And then the other piece of this, which will be coming later after we get evaluation from MERS, would be that they are planning to have the current members in this Division 15 bridge from a B4 to a B2 benefit. So that will be coming along at a later point, but this piece of it would say that any new hires into the supervisor's division would be in the hybrid plan.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I have a couple of questions. The supervisors, it's just new hires, and what they want to do in the future. We're not voting on that right now, but that bridge, is it only going to be for new hires also, or is that current employees?
The current employees will bridge from a B4 to a B2, and new hires will go into the hybrid plan. So the current employees that are in the DB plan, they'll stay in the DB plan, but they will have their B4 benefit frozen, and then they will move to a B2 benefit. So it will still be a defined benefit, but the multiplier will be reduced.
We see. And where are the supervisors currently? The employees right now that are supervisors, where are they in a defined benefit?
Yes, they are. They're in a defined benefit plan with a B4 multiplier.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
You're into the, is that what she wants you? I have no idea.
Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached MERS hybrid plan adoption agreement amendment to enroll new hires, Division 15 Central Dispatch, the MERS hybrid plan division effective January 2021. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Getting back to the previous business, the appointment of Commission on Aging applicants. We do have another applicant on the phone. Charlotte, can you unmute your line? You're unmuted. Good morning, Charlotte.
Good morning.
Would you like to introduce yourself and share why you're applying for this position?
Surely. Well, I think everybody knows my name is Charlotte Moeller, and I'm applying to be on the board because the COA is, I think, such an integral part of the community. I've been involved for many years, as you may know, as a therapist doing counseling, and of course you get to know a community, at least one aspect of it, through that avenue. I've been very involved with the Presbyterian Church for about 25 years, but in the last 3 years have been very intimately involved with the Methodist Church and the food pantry. And through the food pantry and my involvement with them, of course, I see a whole lot of the needs of the county, that some of which are met and some not so well met. But I also just feel like, besides my involvement in church and the food pantry, that it's just time that I offered my self to other endeavors.
That's a mystery.
All right. Questions from commissioners. Let's start with Commissioner Smelker.
I noticed, Charlotte, that on your application that you can't make evening meetings. Is that true?
No, I don't know why I put that, but it's not true anymore.
Okay.
I don't even
Thank you
remember
very
why
much.
I might have checked that.
Thank you. That's all I have, Ben.
Okay.
Commissioner Connor.
Thank you. Good morning, Charlotte. Thank you for your application. How are you?
I'm dandy. I'm in Florida, but I want you to know that it's probably as cold here as it is there.
I don't know. It's 9 this morning, so.
Oh no, but we're only about 50 here, so.
Oh, gee. So I'm going to ask the same question that I asked to the other applicant.
Sure.
And my question was, when making a decision on a board issue, name 3 things that you would consider.
When making a decision on a board issue, things I would consider.
Yes.
Certainly, I think we'd have to look at the need that a community might have, or how it might affect the needs or the interests of people in the community. I certainly want to look at the financial aspects of whatever it was that was being considered, as to whether that was important to, or not important, but whether that would be possible financially, or if not readily available, how might the funds be accessed? So having a strong financial support behind any need or issue would be an important thing. And then thirdly, probably, I mean, I could probably think of 10 things, but another thing might be I mentioned the need in the community is number one, but the third thing might be the let's see, how do I say this? Would it inspire goodwill? What does it have? Well, let me use a stupid example. Let's say we wanted to put in a marijuana shop to as a profit making for the COA. Well, would that inspire goodwill? No, it probably would not. There would be too many mixed reactions to that. So I think the COA, or maybe any organization like it, needs to do things that don't invite incredible controversy. Certainly, there's always going to be a difference of opinion about issues, but I think we need to stay away from highly inflamed issues in making a decision.
Thank you. I don't want to take up all your time. I know the other commissioners have questions, but thank you. Those are for your answers. I appreciate your willingness to serve and give back to the community. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
I'm sorry, did you say something?
Mr. Campbell?
Oh, you can hear me? Okay. The dirty little slash. Okay, good morning, Charlotte. Thank you for applying. I guess my question would be, coming into this, to the Commission of Aging, is there a particular agenda that you would like to see put in there? Is there any pressing issues that you would like to see taken care of if you are appointed? Something that's kind of tops on your list?
You know, I don't have such a list necessarily. I just am aware on an ongoing basis that elderly individuals have many needs. And for example, working at the food pantry, oftentimes, before COVID anyway, I had a great deal of interaction with individuals, and they would have trouble with their transportation. They had to miss their appointment because they couldn't get a ride. They talked to me about their medical issues. I can hardly think of a category of humanity, the human needs that don't come to mind as being unmet from time to time for the elderly. And so, no, do I have a pet agenda? No, I do not. I can think of a number of issues, but I don't have for myself personally something that I would be crusading for at this point in time.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Commissioner Gibson?
Yes, thanks for applying. I have a two-part question. Have you attended any COA meetings, and have you volunteered at that facility?
I have not attended a COA meeting ever, and I consider that something that I should have done. I have participated not as a volunteer, but as a participant in some of the things you've offered. I took 2 different classes there at one time, and I did at one point during a luncheon time, myself and several other individuals provided entertainment for one of the lunch hours. But no, I am not. I have not been intimately involved with the organization.
Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Commissioner Getty?
Charlotte, thanks for applying. You mentioned that you're in Florida. Is that something that you do for a chunk of the year, or did we just catch you on a short vacation? And would it?
No, we try to get away for a couple of weeks, sometime in winter. Sometimes it's in January, sometimes it's in February. But this year it's February. So no, we don't live an extended amount of time. We just usually take a 2-week break.
Commissioner Jackson?
Good morning, Charlotte. Thank you for your application. I don't have any questions at this time. We appreciate you, your interest in serving the community, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. We have no further questions, and we'll be making a decision soon.
Well, thank you for your time, folks. I appreciate it very much.
Bye now. What are the board's wishes?
Never let it be said that I don't have something to say. So making a joke. My choice would be Miller, Tassava, DeWitt, and Moeller.
I agree with Vivian. I would have that same slate.
Campbell would be in agreement to that also.
No. That's my feelings also, Mr. Chair.
Hearing that consensus, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to appoint or reappoint the following to serve on the Berry County Commission on Aging Board for 3-year terms that began on January 1st, 2021, expire on December 31st, 2023. Sager Miller, David Tassava, Jennifer DeWitt, and Charlotte Moeller.
I would make that motion, Mr. Chair. Connor?
Is there support?
Support, Jackson.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of the attached amended 2021 Berry County Board of Commissioners Rules of Procedures and Regulations.
For the purpose of discussion, I'll support.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All right, so discussion. What we have before us is an amendment to the bylaws that does a couple of things. The first thing is it creates a members' time segment of the meeting. It consolidates chairperson's report, vice chairperson's report, and commissioner reports. It has just a members' time where commissioners may speak on any issue, deliver reports, ask and answer questions from other commissioners and administration. So over the years, we've had things that have come up at meetings and we'd like for them to be discussed, not necessarily big enough that we need an agenda request form, but we need to get input from administration or from other commissioners. And this would be something to add onto the cow as well. So at any meeting, we would have the flexibility to discuss pertinent issues to the county board. Also, I believe there is an amendment that removes the requirement that individuals state their address. Should have been in there.
What did you just say, Ben? I mean, Mr. Chairman?
I thought this request had in it the removal of the requirement that somebody state their address during public comment.
I didn't see that.
That is listed on the agenda request.
Yeah, I don't see it written in the bylaws. Nonetheless, my request intends to remove that requirement, and when somebody comes up to the microphone, simply stating their hometown or their city of residence is enough for me.
I don't mind the removal of the address. I do like to know where people are from Berry County. So I'd like them to at least state their city or their township when they address the board. I think that's pertinent information for us to know.
Absolutely. We need to know that when the people come to the microphone, whether they're our constituents or not.
Ben?
Oops.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ben, could you give me a little history on, it looks like you're suggesting with the first item that we're going to get away from commissioner reports and go more to an open forum.
Yes.
What is the history on how long have they been doing commissioner reports? Has there been different formats used in the past? Can you give me a little insight? I don't know, maybe Hoot can add to that as well, since he's been on the commission a couple days.
Yeah. We've
About
had
60. This is something Joyce Snow started about 6 years ago.
Okay. What were you doing before that?
We weren't given any reports. Everybody relied on the radio station and the newspapers for information from the commissioners' meetings. Or township meetings also.
Okay.
Well, do you think it's better to give the reports or not?
Do I think it's better?
Yes.
You asked me or Ben?
You.
Why? I don't know, because if you look in the paper, the same stuff is in the paper. If the townships, you give a report what's going on in their township. So we're just overlaying something. We're giving them the same report again, actually.
This proposal does not eliminate reports. It just gives commissioners flexibility to report on what they so choose. I don't believe I, as
Call
chairperson,
Dave and tell him that I can't get back into
I do see the hand raised. I don't believe I need my own report section. I don't know about the vice chairperson. So that's what this proposal is intended to do, just to consolidate, simplify, make it so we have a free exchange of ideas at every meeting.
Mr. Chair, if I may comment?
We do have to go to other questions from commissioners first. Since you've already asked a question. Is there any other questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I guess I don't have a problem with this except for in 2.1, the last thing. I'm not sure I'm in favor of being restricted that no motion shall be made during members' time. I don't know if that needs to be in there. Just my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, my comment only as a newcomer, I think I'm not opposed to the idea, but it's just a semantics suggestion that we would call it commissioner time and not member time. I think it's more clearly reflects what would happen.
Good idea. Thank you.
Vivian was next, but I would ask a question when Vivian's done.
All right, Vivian.
Thank you. So the thing that, several things. So our board really does a good job when we talk about something that we have documentation available, that there's information, people know what we're going to be talking about. So, and that's great that we're not one of those boards that just brings something up and makes a decision and doesn't have all the facts in front of them. And I realize this is just a commissioner's time, members' time, whatever. But sometimes things like that get going and get traction, and sometimes it's a good thing, and it results in a good decision. But if you don't have that on an agenda, people won't know that we might be talking about something that they would want to be on the call for or at the meeting for. And it's just something to think about. I've seen it happen at other meetings, and not just ours. Excuse me, not just ours. I'm talking about other board meetings. In the past, I know that one of the reasons that Joyce started this was because people didn't know what commissioners were doing out there in their other board meetings or committee meetings. And I think that it's for those people that don't get the paper or don't listen to WBCH, I think it gives a wealth of knowledge when someone is at a meeting and they hear what we do, or another commissioner, you know, it might be information to them that they don't know what's going on. Let's say with a mile a minute weed, you know, and the SISMA for invasive species. I just think that we need to continue. One of the comments you made at the very first meeting of the year was we're going to continue on and let the new members get their foothold. And I just think it's just too early. We just passed this just less than a month ago. So a month ago. So we just passed the board rules. So I really think that we don't need to make that. And I am in agreement with John. If we're going to talk about things, you would have to strike that no motion shall be made, because at a meeting, a commissioner has the right to make a meeting, has the right to make a motion. So I just think we do it nice and clean now. Let's keep it nice and clean. Recently, let me just paraphrase. I was at a board meeting in this last year where a very big motion was made from the floor and it was passed, and it had a lot of controversy and it involved a lot of money. And I like the way our board is responsible with preparing the documents, and I just think we've been doing a good job. Let's keep doing a good job. That's all. Thanks.
David?
Yeah, no, Vivian made some good points. I'm not opposed to maintaining or keeping commissioner reports as an agenda item for those commissioners who want to put information on there. I also like the opportunity to exchange ideas or ask questions of other commissioners. I don't think that you can remove the part of that where we can't make motions, and the reason being is I think the public has a right to review the documents. If we get in the habit of bringing an idea to the floor during commissioner time and put a motion and a vote on it without getting any opportunity for public input or research over the week for people to chime in, I think that's eliminating public participation from what we're trying to do. We're trying to be more transparent and offer more opportunities for people to connect with the county, not less. And I think if we put a motion on a floor from a surprise agenda request that came up during commissioner time that didn't have a chance for adequate review or public input, we could get ourselves in trouble that way and seem like we're being more restrictive. So I think to John's point, although it seems to make sense on the outside that we would allow for motions if there are good ideas, I think sometimes, as we've said before, fast moving government can be dangerous. And I think it's better if there's a good idea, it'll be a good idea next week. We can put it in agenda request and the full board can consider it, review it, have accurate and adequate discussion for all input going forward. So I don't know if that makes sense to John or if he had a different thought on why we would be able to make motions and pass things spontaneously. I just wouldn't want something to come up as a surprise even though it may be a great idea, and then forward it through without giving it adequate time. So that was my comment, but I don't think it's a bad thought, but I think if we tread slowly with this and maintain our commissioner reports, but allow some time at the end for discussion, I think that's never a bad idea to open lines of communication. So
Great. Any other commissioners?
Chairman?
All right, we'll go to the, oh, Catherine.
Did you see my comment? The address requirement was on page 7, item D.
Mhm.
It was not highlighted, but that's where that requirement is listed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
that D in citizen participation, that's not for public comment, though. That's for participation in the actual meeting, isn't it? When they want to make a comment before a vote is taken. For example, we have 2 hands raised right now. Isn't that what D refers to? It's not talking about public comment.
Well, it is a type of public comment. We have comments being made from the public. But
Correct.
just
but
another,
not during the public,
I see what you're saying.
not during the public comment period. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that.
We're going to go to public comment. Joel, please unmute your microphone. You're recognized.
Good morning, Joel, Rutland Township. Am I on?
You're on.
Good deal. Yes, I like the idea of John Smelker about allowing motions, but I do believe that there are provisions in the Open Meetings Act with certain agenda requirements that would prohibit certain motions from being made. So I would recommend to the board to exercise caution there. As far as the address goes, the board needs to tread very carefully on requiring an address, and especially contingent on the age of the person giving public comment. I know there are provisions in the act as it was amended that could potentially allow a fine of up to $10,000 if the personal information of a minor is given out. And I'm still studying that. They changed that act extensively and made it so that you almost need to be a lawyer and able to read it, the changes they made last summer. But the biggest point I would like to, or request I'd like to make is I encourage open discussion, and they do that a lot at the Rutland Township meetings. It's obviously not the poster child for Robert's Rules if you attend one of those meetings. However, there's discussion. They allow discussion from everyone, including constituents, on a lot of the items, basically on all the items, which you've been doing starting this year, Ben. I appreciate that. But if we could provide a process by which us, the constituents, could solicit a response to a certain issue from the board, that is something that I would greatly encourage and look forward to in the proposed rule changes. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak. What I would say is dropping the address requirement altogether from any public comment is in the spirit of the Open Meetings Act. And I know personally, for whatever reason, there were several times when I kept getting my name on the county website, and I didn't really want to be that stern, but I had hit my limit. That being said, I do feel it's a good idea, and maybe we need to amend the motion. I can't do that, but a member can. amend the motion just to do that, and then perhaps put the other up for review, a Robert's Rules of Order review and an OMA review of the other idea on the other part of the motion. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. What are the board's wishes? I have no problem waiting, postponing this until a later date.
Yeah, Ben, I have a comment on some of that. On the address, I do believe that a general address would be good, a township or a city. We do not need a street address. And as far as making motions, I agree that there should be nothing made and voted on there, but I believe there could be a motion to move it on to the board or COW agenda is the motion that I think should be able to be made there. That's all I got. Thank you, Ben.
How do commissioners feel about just changing the address requirement today?
Yes, I'm in favor of that.
I'm in favor of changing it to the person stating their place of residence by township or city.
I would go along with Catherine on that.
Township and city sounds good.
Or village, I guess.
You made that. So, Commissioner Jackson, would you like to withdraw your original motion? And I'll entertain a new one.
Motion withdrawn, yes.
Commissioner Getty, do you consent? Catherine, you seconded the motion. You have to consent for it to be withdrawn.
I said yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. This time the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the commissioner amending the rules of procedure for the Board of Commissioners. Rules of procedure and regulations for the Board of Commissioners to change item D under citizens participation, removing the words and address and replacing them with and municipality of residence and. So we're changing the word address to municipality of residence.
I'll make that motion.
Jackson.
Motion is made by Getty, supported by Jackson. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
in the past, when we've changed bylaws, we've actually had it so that it was clear which bylaws were getting changed. Right now, I'm not sure if you're doing Article 5.
5D.
D.
Yep.
And then what about citizen participation under procedure? I mean, you're not clear which citizens participation you're talking about. And in the past, we've always had a highlighted document to make it clear what we were voting on.
So we will provide such documentation to commissioners at the Board of Commissioners. But we're changing citizen participation under procedure on page 7. We're changing one word that says address. We're changing it to municipality of residence. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of amendment of the Board of Commissioners rules of procedure and regulations, changing citizens participation, line 4, address to municipality of residence. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, moving ahead. Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the board wishing to Any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes. Please unmute your microphone to make your request known. Chair recognizes Aaron Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Aaron Gross, City of Hastings, calling in from on the road. I just wanted you to know that I appreciate you making that change to the bylaw. That was a good thing, and then definitely in the spirit of OMA. I also trust that the board will seek to forgive any fines, cease and desist, or other legal actions or devices that have been placed against any church, school, or business in the county in regards to the unconstitutional government mandates under the COVID restriction. That is all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Joel.
Yes, good morning again. Joel Libbetson, Rutland Township. And listening to the meeting today, one of the painful things that, as far as I was concerned listening to, was the Conservation Easement Board people that had applied. I farm with a friend of mine. We do roughly 700 acres of grass, alfalfa, wheat, straw, and so forth, bale. And we sell to over 100 small farms all throughout the Hastings, Middleville, Berry County area. And there are many people out there that live in developments, live in subdivision areas where they have a 10-acre patch of ground, and they do raise steers, horses, pigs, so forth. And I get to see that firsthand because we're delivering farm goods to them all the time. And where, yes, farm ground is a precious commodity, I also see that housing is also even more so precious. And with the crisis that we have, not having any place to rent right now, not having homes on the market. I mean, they're going for upwards of 20% over asking price right now. I don't think that it's a good idea to try and block off some of this farm ground. There are people out there that want these small little pieces of ground. They want to preserve it, but more importantly, we need to allow Hastings to grow and thrive the tax base. And I understand that there's probably a lot of farmers that'll be upset with me for making that recommendation, but as someone that does farm, I also see the need for housing. So also, I want to thank Vivian Connor for, there was a question addressing just that. And I want to thank you personally, Vivian, for doing so. That is all. Thanks.
Thank you. Your further public comment today.
Can you see me or hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to say that, first of all, because I'm kind of ignorant with all this county business and everything, I wasn't even aware that there was a commission for conservation or whatever. And if anybody could ever provide some information as where how to find that or get involved in and stuff, I'd be interested. And number two, quick question I had was, let's say you join this conservation, you're a farmer, you got, let's say, 1,000 acres, just for grins and giggles. And 20 years from now, you decide that you're getting too old and you want to retire and start enjoying a little bit of life and stuff, but nobody in your family wants to farm. Are you allowed to go ahead and sell it, or does the conservation department take over? How, if anybody can give any kind of a clue or answer that, or I can research further if I find out how to get involved with this commission. But yeah, it's interesting. I would like to know, because I too understand the need for housing and growth and stuff, but of course we like to preserve our farmland too, but only through, if, like I say, if the farmer has nobody that wants it, who's going to get it, So that'd be my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment? Seeing or hearing no such requests, and without objection, the committee will now adjourn.